deficit going on for the last 12 years, but the government expenditure is bloated. The dependency on petroleum now has gone to about 48% of GDP of the government, total government expenditure, and this is, in economic terms, is untenable. But when it comes to GST, it's a flip-flop decision, or increasing oil prices, because the moment there's a protest, increased protests by the opposition or civil society groups, then they backtrack. But the problem with the GST was never well thought of plan. It was never explained, well articulated. You know, they just decided, and then they table a very weak piece of legislation, and then withdrew that. I'm not surprised, because and then it's issue of credibility of the government now. I think they are in a very weak and fragile positions where they use this brute force, and they would they are not certainly prepared to do anything that would be deemed to be unpopular. But then they should manage the economy. They should reduce expenditure on wastage and reduce commissions by procuring armaments, which they are also not prepared to do. There must be a tax reform in the tax laws. That's true. Okay, there are certain other priorities. You know, leakages, loss due to corruption, to leakages, amounts to 28 billion a year. This is according to government estimates. You see, how much do you gain from the GST? All in all, is 1 billion net. What if you do, for example, structural reform, manage the economy in a prudent manner, stop the wastage, stop this policy of direct tender and commissions, huge commissions in every single procurement policy, you can save 15 billion, if not 28, as suggested by Permuda, the government agency that have given this figure. My earlier response, I said, we need to reform the tax policy. But what is the priority now? Is stop the leakage and the corruption. And I'm just quoting the government figures of 28 billion ringgit. Now, so we start with that. Why do you burden the large segment of the population due to your own excesses? Why punish the rest? And then the leakages, even the tax policies. I remember once the finance minister made a very, very unpopular move to the billionaires. I identified 10 billionaires who have been failing to pay their taxes. And they were all close cronies to the leadership. And of course, a very, very tough decision that I made, and I had to pay a price. So why don't we really look at these things? Is it the billions of ill-gotten wealth? I mean, so you have to start a reform. You start with the rich and the powerful. Why? You see, the whole approach of GST is now to transfer. You amass wealth, ill-gotten wealth, and you transfer and punish the rest. So it's not going to be I consider to be a right move. We'll oppose that. But if you consider, for example, a prudently managed economy, everything transparent, and you stop the leakages, then you move then at the second or third stage to then reform the tax laws and policies. I think it is something that we will have to explore. That is why, as a matter of principle, I've never rejected per se any need to review the tax regime. We are prepared, and I think in the light of this aggressive, corrupt manner, the Najib administration, I call it Najib Rosmah administration. Najib Rosmah administration. Rosmah is his wife. First, the way they handle Perak, okay? And then the judiciary, and the increased crime rate in the country, and then how they've been harassing Selangor state government, and how they've been using some racist, UMNO racists, to attack Penang and the leadership there. I think these issues are, of course, issues that must be well explained to the people, and whether they are ready for an early or later election, we are prepared. And I think it is good for keadilan and good for Pakatan Rakyat. Yeah, because you can see the clear difference in the whole policy. They talk about Ketuhanan Melayu, Malay supremacy. We say people's supremacy. They talk about keeping the system and entrenched. We say reform. Judiciary, police, enforcement, anti-corruption measures, procurement policies. So I think it is whether you want this system to go on, which is no longer tenable, which we have lost competitiveness, we've given the figures, foreign direct investments, growth, we have lost to Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, and Vietnam. The Minister of International Trade tried to dispute my figures yesterday when I presented the case in Parliament, and I then reproduced the ASEAN Secretariat database that gives the specific figures that we have lost out in these 4 countries.
I think it's well documented.
Yes, but he tried to deny. He said no, it's not true, and then he said it's because of the investment in low-base industries. I mean, he's a please state deny. Then I say, what about Singapore? Even the investment in Indonesia, not all on this low tech. There are certain areas, even in Vietnam, they've identified certain areas. But you see, whereas but Coca-Cola is coming to Malaysia, of course, we're not saying that no one is coming. There's some. But we have lost in terms of competitiveness. That's an important issue.